everyone. Welcome back, friends. My name's Ryan Selvy, and I am a Brooklyn-based artist, and I am here to help you digitize all the things in your life that mean a lot to you. Digital artifacts is a play on words, since digital artifacts are the things that pop up on your JPEGs when you save them too many times, when you are taking a messy audio recording and you're trying to isolate the audio and there's that chirping and weird in the background. That's digital artifacts, but the focus of this show is actually to take the things that are sentimental and important to people or you, share their stories, and then also find ways to restore them or just give them extra life or immortality on the digital screen. So if you have things that you would like to submit, please hit me up at ryanselvy@gmail.com or find other ways to get to me like my Instagram or Blue Sky. And it's really great to be here. We're going to be together for the next hour today. And we've got a recipe card that we're going to be redesigning. But before we hop into that, we actually have a viewer submitted set of photographs that we're going to take a look at and just see how we would be able to restore them and try to do our best to give them the extra life that they need. So without further ado, let's go and hop on into there. I do want to say hello to Wade in the chat on YouTube for being our moderator, as well as a hearty hello to everybody over on Behance. Thank you to Keys, Bruce, Oliver, Barbara. Did I miss anyone? Everyone for saying hello and for also looking into the recipe before we've even gotten there. So we'll get there. Don't you worry. First thing up, though, we have a user-submitted photograph from Bruce Gonzalez, who is actually in the chat as we speak. Thank you for sending these over. He uploaded them to the Discord that I have. And he was saying that this is him as a child here with the ball, but there is this photo that he has, and it's super discolored. So there's a few things that we can do right off the bat. Just like anything else in Photoshop, there's 1,000 ways to do one thing, and it's up to preference, it's up to results. Everybody, this is Bruce. Hi, Bruce. And so the first thing that I'm seeing that is like immediate for me is the white balance is way off. So there's a few different ways that you can approach white balance. By going down here to the bottom right, you can create some new adjustment layers, and that's going to put an adjustment on top of a layer beneath it. You can do things like levels or curves. I tend to actually gravitate towards curves, I feel like. And when you open up to curves, let's take a quick second actually to break down what curves does. So curves has a graph here on the side, and let's see if I can make this bigger for you guys. Okay, yeah, so curves has a graph here, and the way that you can read this is you have 4 different options. You have RGB, red, green, and blue. RGB obviously stands for red, green, blue. It is the default, and that is saying that it is going to approach the entire picture as a whole. So this is your darkest dark of your image down here in the very bottom left, and at the very top of the top right is your whitest white. So what this is telling us is from the darkest dark to whitest white, it is a clear and equal increase to going from dark to bright. Think of this as luminance, think of this as brightness. That is your increased area. You'll see if I say, and that's from left to right. Left is darkest, right is brightest. Up and down is kind of where we're going to adjust it with left and right, or you can do it, but this I normally think up and down. So the very bottom left, we're saying the darkest dark is black, black. But let's say that we want the very darkest to not actually be full black. What we would do is we would drag this bottom one and we would drag it up. And you can see as I'm increasing the bottom here, up and up and up, this is now saying the darkest dark is actually this light. And then that moves everything up. So everything starts to turn a lot more white as well. You can bring it all the way up, and it's going to turn entirely white. By contrast, if we were to go to the whitest white, and we were to start dragging it down, everything turns dark. Because we're saying we want our brightest bright to be this dark. And it brings it down. So once you can wrap your mind around that, you can then kind of then jump into reds. Now, the reds here are saying there are practically, you can see where it's active, there are practically no reds in the shadows right now. Like when it comes to our shadows, there is no red. So we can see that actually in the image. Like you look at the image and they're actually pretty blue. So with, you know, your color theory, the opposite of red will be blue. So as you increase this red into the darks, you'll see that those blues kind of go away. That said, if we're going to our brightest bright and we're dragging down, you'll see blue is starting to come and the red is going away because we want less and less red. This is, you know, the amount of red for here, and this is our light to dark. So you can also increase it like this. You can increase it like that. This works for every single color. With green, you know, you take it out, it's going to turn a little bit more magenta. You bring it up, it's going to be more green. Same with blue. Bring it down, everything turns yellow. Bring it up, everything turns blue. All right, that was Crash Course. Not the most interesting stuff, but actually pretty interesting once you get into it. So then you have these little eyedropper tools, which is nice, and you can click and select your white. And so all this is doing is saying, show me your whitest white that you want in here. So I know down here on the overalls that I want this to be the whitest white. So you click that, and it's going to start adjusting where the colors of blue are going to be. We were actually only in blue, so I want to go back to RGB. And I'm going to click on the overalls, and it's going to change everything here to white to black. You can see that now we can visualize our reds, greens, and blues right here to see where they are going to now be. Now, it's also good to get in the habit of also going into your darkest darks and kind of identifying a black that is going to be the darkest dark. We can see back here, there's a little something going on here that's probably entirely black. So we'll click that. Overall, that's one solution, okay? I think that's pretty good. You still have it as an adjustment layer, so you can always increase and decrease the opacity of it if you would like, but that is one approach to fixing that color. The second thing you can do here is, rather than curves, we just threw that out the window, we're going to go to levels. And levels works pretty similar too. You got your darkest darks, your whitest whites. If you start to drag, it will then make everything a lot darker. If you start to drag, everything a lot brighter. And just like curves, we also have the white that we can click. And we can also click the black. And that gives us kind of a similar solution here. So let's look between the two. We have our levels one. We have our curves one. Levels one, curves one. If we want to even actually see that, like, even a faster back and forth, we can even just group these two bad boys. And then I can actually just switch between the two for you guys so that you can see the change. And it's pretty similar. We took two different ways to get there, but we got there nonetheless. But those are also ways that we're just going to explore doing quick and dirty. The way that I'm actually going to really like to do this is we're going to go ahead, we'll convert this into a smart object, and let's make this actually filter with a camera raw filter. Camera raw filter is super powerful. It opens up a whole new dialog box, and within here we have a lot of control over more than just the color here. We have control over things like light and effects, and what I really like is color grading. So the first thing that we can do is we can go into color, and you can either identify it as a shot, you can do auto, or you can do custom, which will be very similar to what we did, where you go in, you use the eyedropper, and you select that overalls. Now, I think it's looking pretty good, but I think the darks could be darker, and that's where a really cool, you could hop into curves from here too if you would like to, but since we are in this setting, let's actually just hop into color grading. And I think that in the darks here, we could probably get a little bit darker, so let's increase the dark here, but then that makes our midtones kind of jump off a cliff into darkness as well. So we can then actually bring up some of the brightness, but then you can see it gets a little too contrasty. So we might not actually want to move that. You can then add color specifically only to the midtones, the shadows, or the highlights. I think that everything is still a little too red, so you can just use color theory and go to the opposite side of the color wheel. So we'll add some cyan just to the highlights, ever so slightly. And then maybe for the shadows, we can also add some blues. For the midtones, I want it to be a little bit brighter. And at any point, you can always go and toggle the default settings on and off. So we can look at before and after here. And if you want to adjust the midtones, you can even like grow it bigger here. And you can mess with the luminance, the balance, the blending, I think we're going to increase our balance a little bit more. And then you can also always see if you like what you did or not. In any event that you want to switch everything up, you can just right click and you can do like reset all ranges and it brings it back. Like I said before, you can also hop into curves here if you would like. This one gives you a little bit more control over stuff. Since we want to bring up some of those midtones, maybe we were here, but we also don't want it to get too bright. But we also don't want to have any sort of weirdness happening with any of the skin tones here. Of course, you can always go back and adjust temperature. You can adjust vibrance, which will adjust saturation without hurting skin tones too much. Keys is saying, guessing by the colors of the photo, I'm guessing mid-70s. Yes. When was this taken, Bruce? It says it's taken at a local park. Barbara's saying, check out the little cutie in the lower left corner. Lots of cute memory lane things to go down. You also have light where we can mess with our shadows. It's a delicate balance because you don't want to wash everyone out, but also old photos tend to really muddle some things together, which is why I really like to have like blacks and whites here. But sometimes it will go a little too far. And so it's really just like messing with it. You can always look at your graphs up here to see how everything is adjusted. You can even click and drag from there with like things like your whites. And we'll continue to mess with it. Contrast. Exposure. Now, we can always press down Alt OK. That'll add it as a smart filter. And if we wanted to, for whatever reason, we could duplicate it. We could turn the filter on, and maybe you want to like bring down the amount that it has. And then, of course, and you'll see this is a recurring theme on this show, we can always go in and we can use some neural filters. So let's duplicate it. Well, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do Control Shift Alt E, which merges everything together and then puts it on top. And then we're going to go over to our filters, neural filters. And from there, we can actually use the photo restoration tool, which can help get rid of some of these scratches if you would like. You have your photo enhancement. You also have your scratch reduction. And you'll see that as you do that, it will find different parts to help clean up some of the mess that we have on top of it. We can make sure our output is set to new layer. And say, there we go. And then even with on top of this, sometimes I'll then even go back into something like our levels and make sure that we are still on track. And I can adjust the intensity of that. And what do you know? Pretty good image, I think. You can always also sharpen it more if you would like. But by and large, I think that this looks like a pretty good fixed color of a day with the park. This also looks like a concrete ball to me. Like, does this not look like this would weigh 1,000 pounds? I'm guessing it doesn't, because obviously little Bruce is playing with it. But it looks like a very heavy ball. Bruce said, Mom didn't do too bad in taking the shot. Great memory. Yeah, do you remember it? Or do you think that's one of those things like your brain has now remembered it? Also, hello to Salwal Ben Musa over on YouTube. It's good to see you here. Bruce also went ahead and sent in another photo, which just needs a lot more help, okay? Now, something to be said about any of these things is it's always good to have a good starting point, because if you have a good starting point, then you can get farther. However, sometimes we are in a situation where we don't have access to anything better. And this is the memory we have, or the only photo we have, the only scan we have. And in this case, we have a very, very, very blurry photo. And it is very important to remember, like if you use an AI thing or something, it's not actually pulling out information from the photo itself, it is making its best guess. So rather than relying on like an AI system for here, we are going to do the best that we can do to pull all the information out of the picture that we can do and just suck it on out. So we have our image first. What we're going to do first is press Control J. It's going to duplicate it. I'm going to right click and convert it to a smart object. That's just because then it doesn't hurt it as much for me. So what I will then do is go to Filter. We're going to go to Other and go to a high pass, okay? Now, high pass looks a little funny, but you can see that when we do a high pass, it can then pull out some of the details. You can switch the radius up and down for how much intensity you want. Everything's going to turn gray. And I kind of liked it somewhere around maybe like the 13 mark. 14, 15 mark. Now, this is all going to be dependent on your picture, your resolution, you name it. But we're going to add it to this one, and we're going to change it to maybe like 15. Let's just do 15 pixels so it's nice and even. Or 14. That might be too much. So let's do 14. You can turn the preview on and off. And once we hit OK, you'll now see that we have the image with the smart filter applied to it with a high pass. What we're going to do next is we're going to change the layer that we have that has the high pass on it over to overlay, okay? And already we can see some more details in the eyes. We can see more details on the edges. It's also pulling out some of this dust and dirt that we have on top of the image, but don't worry, we're going to get to that as well. Our messaging from the chat from Bruce says, this is a rough one. It's a friend of the fam. We used to call him Tom Cruise. This is Tom Cruise. Mission Impossible coming at you soon. But that's still not entirely where we want it to be. So we're going to have to start getting creative. And what we're going to start doing is I'm going to do another thing again where we do the Control Shift Alt E, which merges everything into one layer and puts it on top. And so now we have this new version. We're going to put it here. We're going to say old because this is all old news. But maybe we'll even get rid of that so that we can then reference it later. But this is our new one. We're going to convert it to a smart object. And the first thing we're going to do is duplicate this and give it a new name. We'll call it Details. Now, with Details, we're going to change it straight to Vivid Light here. And things are going to get really weird, but I promise we come back around. Next, we're going to then add an adjustment layer here. And we're going to change it to the invert. And it's going to look really funky, but we are going to then clip mask it only to this area. And then from there, we are going to select the area here, and we are going to say Filter, Apply Surface Blur. So blur, we're going to go to our surface blur here. And you'll see that sort of the details are starting to come up. You can mess with your radius. Once again, you can mess with your threshold and your levels. You can turn the preview on and off. Obviously, it's going to pop up and down as you can. And then we will then go back down here. We're going to duplicate this guy one more time. I have my notes off to that side here. Then go to Filter Gallery, Filter Gallery here. And under our Filter Gallery, it will pop up something once again. We want to have a diffuse glow. And this is just going to make our brights even brighter. It will be, once again, applying it to this messiness that we have, but do not fret. We are going to address that in just a little bit. So we can change the glow amount, the clear amount. I'm going to bring it up a little bit more. You can zoom out with your normal keyframes or Control minus, Control plus. And then press OK. Looks pretty ugly, but we're going to group these all together. And then we're going to change this from pass-through into overlay. So it's looking pretty intense. I recognize that. But if we take these guys and we compare it to the old one, this is the after This is the before. We're getting a lot of new details that were kind of lost beforehand. The folds in his shirt, some detail around the eyes, nose, and mouth, notably. And as I said, recurring theme. What we're going to do here is we're going to open up our neural filters, because neural filters are going to really help us get some of that clean look that we want. So filter, neural filters, and we will pop on into our photo restoration. We can turn that on. And as we turn that on, it's going to do some weird stuff to the face. I normally turn enhance face pretty significantly down, because it's going to try to do some AI stuff with the face, and it's just not quite there yet for me, as far as face. So once again, as always, you can turn it on and off to see what is changing. And then you can also turn this scratch reduction up and down, and that's going to start addressing these small little pieces of like artifacts we have. You can see that just by a little bit, it's able to identify it and bring it up. And then I'm going to output it to a new layer. So since we just keep doing our check over and over again, let's look at our after and our before, our after and our before. You can continue to mess with this if you want. Like, I think that personally, maybe the reds in the faces are becoming a little too intense, so we can even hop into selective color. And the way the selective color works is it has each color identified and separated, and you have cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. You can go into reds, which I think are too intense here, and you can either like increase or decrease the blacks in them so that they're lighter or darker. You can maybe add some yellow, maybe some cyan to neutralize them a little bit. And as we increase the cyan, you can see as we turn it on and off, we're getting rid of that like red glow that we have. If there is something that is over the entire image, you can go to neutrals, and what I normally do to identify where it is you can either bring it all the way up or down to kind of see this is the stuff that these sliders are going to affect. And so it helps with contrast sometimes, but it also helps if you just want to add like a pop of color. Maybe we add a little bit of yellow or magenta, some cyan. We mess with taking the cyan out, and when you take out the cyan, you can see that the red kind of pops in again. And I think that's getting to a pretty good point. Like I said, we're not going to be able to make it look like it was a picture that was taken entirely today. Like, unfortunately, like when you have an image that is from the past, it's from the past, no matter what you do. But I think that this is getting it to a pretty good place where it's at least, giving some of the details, and we can kind of remember Tom Cruise as he was. Now, there were a few parts that did not get picked up by the noise reduction. So I'm going to zoom in, and we're going to use some of our tools that we can have on site to fix this area. We have a spot heal removal tool, which is a little band-aid. I'm going to use the brackets to make it bigger. We're going to get rid of this small area. All you do is you just highlight it, and it'll get rid of it. And you can do this kind of all around the image. You'll see that it kind of messed up with his shoulder there, so maybe we use a different application or solution in that case. Sometimes if there is so much noise around, it will fix the noise with other noise, which isn't really the program's fault, because guess what? It's a noisy boy. And I'm just clicking, and I'm just getting rid of some of these parts here that look a little. Keith says, I see you. You had a lot working against you. Indoor light, spur of the moment, no doubt. Yes, absolutely. But the cool thing is like when I first, Bruce, I'm going to be honest, when you first sent it over, I was pretty sure that I was not going to be able to get it to a good place. I tried just putting like a regular filter on top of it with like a sharpen, and that wasn't working for me. And there were actually a few different ways that I kind of searched around, and who did I end up finding that was really good, that actually helped me with some of the high pass stuff? That was the creator on YouTube named PixieView, who also has a really good breakdown. You should check it out. He does some other stuff in it too, and he doesn't do all the things that I do. But he has this PixieView. It's called Sharpen Your Images by Blurring Them in Photoshop. And that one is pretty good that you can work off of. He does some other stuff that I don't like what it does to the image, but it is where I got that kind of blur and high pass, not high pass, the other one, like whatever second thing we did. So YouTube is your friend. there are some really cool creators out there. Always want to support them and learn things and teach things to each other. All right. So like I said, this area down here looks a little rough. So we could probably go into the patch tool here. I'm just going to lasso tool it around. And what this will do is as I drag it, it's going to reference a different part of the image. And I mean, that fixes it pretty well. Just because I was like referenced this other part of the image. So all in all, I think it's pretty good. We can always go in and then from this point do a sharpen or something. It depends. Sometimes it makes things look a little funky. We can do sharpen edges or sharpen more. But once again, maybe the levels are too high here for this as well. Maybe we bring a little bit out of those darks just because it seems like we're losing some detail. And sometimes I add filters and then, you know, I end up counteracting them with other filters. But all in all, I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. And this is how I would restore this picture. Of course, if you guys have any images yourself that you would like restored or advice on how to restore them, please, by all means, let me know. And Bruce, I will throw both of these into the chat for you in Discord so that you have access to them. And if you'd like, I can even throw the PSD in there too if you want to like turn off certain layers or whatever. But yeah, as the title of this live stream says, we're about halfway through. We are going to check out Aaron's recipe cards, who's my fiance. But let's first hear from him himself.
So this is a single recipe from a whole box of recipes my whole family has. They have been written on little index cards throughout the generations of my family. Some go even from my great-grandmother to my grandmother to my mom to my siblings. I think this recipe is sweet potatoes that we do every Thanksgiving, and it's very near and dear to all of my family, and it's a really cherished kind of family heirloom.
Thanks, Aaron. I really love this. This is actually probably one of the inspirations for this show. He has this like Land of Lakes tin where that has all of these really personable recipe cards that they have where that it's all written out. And it has a lot of, you can see kind of the smudges on it. You can see where maybe things have been spilled. You can really see the hands of the people that have created it. And I was not there. I had them take a picture of it and send it to me. So we are working with a selection that maybe has some skewing on it. So the very first thing that I want to do here, also Bruce says, cool mic, by the way. Yes, these things are awesome. This is obviously Ryan Selvy, not an Adobe endorsement, but they're really, really cool. They're from Hollyland, and I love them. They are magnets. They look like this. I even have stickers that I got that come with it that I put on it, and they're magnets. I guess I should throw this up on opening screen here. They're these magnets, you know, just clicks on, which is cool. And then you can have it either connect straight to your phone, or you can have it connect to like a camera. It also comes with a bunch of other applications that you can do. It has these necklaces that also are powered by magnets, where you can just put the pennant on the necklace, and then it like hangs around, and you put it right here. They come with little clips. They came with little clips. And then, of course, they also have the dead cat and stuff if you want to have the noise reduction on it. But they're very cool. I've used them for a few. I'm using them for a product that I'm doing for our wedding and doing it for stuff like this. And it's really cool. And I'm excited to have them. Definitely recommend. But back to this work. Now, this is slightly skewed, but I want to have it as flat as possible for taking the information off of here. Oh, Jaylene's asking if I denoised any of the image. I did not denoise. That could very well be a really good way to also add extra life to it. I think if you go to filter noise, there's a denoise. There's dust and scratches and reduce noise, but I also know that we pulled a lot out by blurring it, so I am hesitant to try it out. I have not tried it all. out off stream, so I'm hesitant to give advice on it right now. But that's definitely something that, oh, now I'm out of focus. No, I'm back in focus. Restore, Ryan, restore. Anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to go to filter, camera, raw filter. That's another theme of the day today and probably of the show. And what we're going to be using here is the geometry tool. And the geometry tool can be navigated to by these little little spots. So if you have a different setup, it might also be at the top. But what I have here is we have things you can manually transform, but it also has things like auto or horizontal, where you can apply just like one area to then fix it. Some vertical, full. But the one we're going to be working on is the draw guides, which I really like to do. And draw guides lets you select 2 areas here that make it verticals. So I'm just clicking and dragging and saying this is the vertical areas that I want, and it's going to automatically update it. Then without changing anything, I just click and drag to do my horizontals like this, and it's going to change it. So once again, let's look at before and after. You can see that now it has adjusted the perspective without really skewing and morphing the text very much. So we'll press OK. And we're going to do the same thing to the back of the card, which we can then go to once again and do camera raw filter. Once that pops up, we'll then once again bring it over to the geometry by clicking the same area. And all we do is go to manual here, and we click and drag. And you can do it in whatever order you want. It will figure out if you are going horizontal or vertical, and then it will adjust accordingly. In this case, I should probably do the vertical first because it tried to crop it off because it's so close to the edge. So let's do our verticals, and then we can do our horizontals. Boy, oh boy, is that slanted. This one's a little bit more rough shape than the other one. So not all are created equal. And there you go. So now we have our 2 here. And what I would like to do is I would like to be able to pull some stuff out of it, like the name of it, obviously, maybe some directions and ingredients. But as far as this stuff goes, I kind of would like to clean it up and make it its own situation. So what I'm going to do is I am going to duplicate, and I want to do a color balance on this as well, similar to what we did earlier. I'm going to just click here, but you'll see that it is way too strong. So sometimes it's best to just kind of increase things or decrease things on your own. This might not be the best picture for it, but we can always bring our selection up and down. We can also do a threshold, which is super intense, but might be able to pull out kind of information that is otherwise lost. The thing that we're really focusing on here, though, is probably the cranberry oatmeal sweet potatoes. So I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this into its own document, and then we're going to see if I can just pull out the information from there. But it's mad at me because I selected the wrong area because I copied it from the curve section. So we're going to paste it. We now have this area. Oh, it's in black and white. We didn't even mean to do that, but you know, here we are because originally it was from the curves. What I'm going to do here is, you could do stuff always, like you can always bring it to like multiply or something, and it's going to pull out, what you have set as blacks and whites. But because we don't have to worry as much about all the other information in the image, we can then begin to try to knock out that other area. I'm going to actually switch this back to RGB because I want to be able to maybe have that information. But we can go in and adjust our levels so that we can then pull out what we need to. All right, so I'm going to select and hit similar. It should pull out most of what we need. Might need a little bit of additional love. You can always adjust your threshold and your tolerance. and it's going to be focusing off of what we already have. I hit similar, and then I'm going to mask it. And then we can kind of see if there's some nastiness going on. I'm going to go ahead and actually just mask out some stuff here. Last week we did a color selection, but because it's black and white, I don't think that's the smartest approach to go here. So I'm going to just quickly take my stylus here. Oh no, we don't want any of this. So let's actually go in here. I'm going to press Alt-Delete. And it's getting fuzzy real quick. So we might even need to just go in. I might just go over the letters themselves. I'm going to disable the layer mask and copy it and disable the layer mask. And then we're just going to write on top of it. So that's also a way to cheat your way through here. Let's do that. Let's actually just start making it disappear, because then we can invert the mask afterwards. So I'm going to just increase. I'm going to copy. And we're also going to be putting it on top of white. So if something is kind of being seen through, we'll be able to not really have to mess with it because it's also on its own thing. What's everybody's family recipe that they like to use? Mine's one called Wacky Cake, and it is a cake from the Great Depression, and it doesn't use any eggs or milk. It relies a lot on vinegar, and it's actually vegan, which is funny because that's not why it was made. It was made because because it was the Great Depression. But we've been always having it growing up, and then now vegan places are open, and when I go to a bakery and they have vegan cake, I'm like, oh sweet, this is just like Wacky Cake. Penny Doodle says, I am familiar with Wacky Cake. Yes, my dude, love to hear it. So that's just one that I've always grown up on. What else have I grown up on? I've also grown up on this like essentially Parmesan crusted chicken. It's funny when you think something is like a family recipe and then you get to some other place in your life and someone knows the same thing and you're like, oh, I guess it wasn't that special. All right. And then we'll go to potatoes. A friend of mine and her husband always requested for his birthday, and at first I was like, what? And then did you try it? And then now you're like, this is where it's at, because that's how I am. I love me some Wacky Cake. And we'll always, it's really dumb, but we'll say something along the lines of like, oh, it's the traditional dad's turning 58 Wacky Cake, which like, it's obviously there's only one time that dad turns 58. All right, we're going to press Control I. And now we have cranberry oatmeal sweet potatoes. I'm going to go ahead. I guess we could continue to just so slightly do this. What I could always do is we could always get like a soft brush with a small opacity, and we could very faintly kind of get rid of it, you know, rather than being so harsh around the edges, just because we do want to keep some of that bleed. At least I personally do. Maybe increase the opacity to like 48 or something. But I like having these small touches of just like, this is the handwriting that was originally there. Pancakes with a meat, vegetables, and mushroom filling? Like a savory pancake. That's fascinating. Like, do you eat them at breakfast? Or is it just like you're using pancake as like the closest thing and it's more like a, I don't know, what would that be like? Like a falafel, essentially? I think that looks pretty good because guess what? It's going to be relatively smaller too on the card itself. So let's just go ahead and we can save it. If you want to adjust the levels anymore, we can. I'm going to increase it just so that we get it fully there. Control Shift S. I'll just save it somewhere. I'm going to save it on my desktop. Don't tell anyone. And we're going to say cranberry title. And I'll save it as a PNG. And then we're going to hop on over to Illustrator. So in Illustrator, we have this nice area. I'm going to then grab and drop my title that we have from Photoshop. And I want it to be kind of the title of the... Where are you, dude? I just saved you. Do you guys ever have this issue on Windows computers where you save something and then it doesn't pop up in your Explorer? Or is that just like Ryan's computer is broken? Because I feel like I run into that issue on the regular. And it's very frustrating. All right. With that in mind, we will then hop over and we'll drop it in here. Okay. So I want to have it up in the center. I like the idea. Do you guys think I should do both, or do you think that maybe we should just do just the one? I also think it would be really cool to take the moment to also acknowledge which family it comes from. It is not the pancakes that you do in the US, much lightweight and thin version, very big. It's used to be made by my grandmother and mother for the winter holidays. Okay, cool. Oh, that sounds yummy. So I'm thinking a nice like font, maybe like New Spirits could be fun. So I'll say New Spirit. I like the idea of it being like a medium. And we can align it to the center of the artboard. I don't know if we need both or not, but I think it's kind of fun to have both to an extent. Or like it looks almost like it almost looks like it's like there, and then beneath it is the... I spelled cranberry wrong. Funny. It kind of looks like the translation, which is kind of a fun situation here. And then we are going to start pulling some of the information that we have. We have ingredients and directions. I think ingredients and directions can also be something that we can steal. In the essence of time, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull them all out. So for just right now as a placeholder, I think it would be fun to just take some of these and we can always come back to it. All right, and directions. And I like the idea of having two. I also really like the idea of adding some sort of line here in the middle where I can go across. And something that I think would be really nice is if we were able to identify which family member or lineage it came from. So it could be something where like we say an original recipe from the, and then you like circle one, which could be cool. If we want to make it a little bit like clearer to see, we could change it to a New Reason, which I think is a nice typeface that goes well with New Spirit. And we can say, oops. say Brooks or Karlstrom's. And I feel like maybe do we center that too, you think? Maybe. Perhaps. Or what we could do is we could not center everything, because everything's going to actually need to be kind of on a grid-like basis here. Or maybe rather than have it described here, that's where we put an original recipe from the... Yeah, I like that a lot more. And then there we can even say, because then having that division between, and you could like circle whichever you want to have. Should I put others too? Because that would be kind of funny, right? Should it be the same font? Maybe it should be the same font. I know we're getting tight on time here. Something like that. And then we can probably have this area here where it breaks it. Maybe these are, rather than medium, they're light. This can be a little bit smaller and centered. I'll bring this down like here, increase this area. I'm only going to add, only allow this much space for the ingredients. And quickly, maybe we don't even need the sans serif. Maybe we just put it all in this, because we have the handheld as a solution. We could also always go in and we could always take these twos or something. What if we did that? What if we copied the two? Oh, that's so fun. Okay, cool. We'll do that. 2 Brooks. That's funny. 2 sticks butter. I'm gonna move this up here so I can see this. I can actually see the recipe, and I don't have to switch back and forth. But if you guys are wondering what I'm doing, I'm literally just using the wand tool to grab sticks butter. And if something is hard to read, I don't feel like numbers is going to be the thing that's going to be the difficult part. So I think this doesn't hurt. Cup brown sugar. One. I mean, I guess if we're going to do like I guess we can do what, 2C? This would be best probably to write out these all out first, right? Cup oatmeal. Oops. Four cups of yams. That's enough there. You know what? I was going to do abbreviations for cup, but it just doesn't look right. So we could also always like decrease the size of these. And we'll say bag cranberries, and unlimited marshmallows. Now, one way we can do to really disperse these properly is you just highlight them all. You go to your align area over here, and you can just align like this. I'm thinking we're going to need some more space here, so we can bring it up. We'll align this as well. I'm going to quickly grab all of the numbers, and we will add them. And I'm being a little quiet because I realize we're really close on time, and I want to get you guys a finished product. Where did that go? Why did I just say Carlstrom's? 2 cups oatmeal. 4 cups of yams just seems so intense. Seems like a lot of yams. I mean, I guess they are sweet potatoes, but aren't sweet potatoes and yams different? You know? And then this has a little funniness in it because I think it was a nerdy member of the family that wrote it. With the limit of x over, to infinity. Which, like, that's, such a family thing. If I could get it to select, that would be sick. Oopsies. Something like that. Okay. And I wonder, even with this, if when we go to the opacity, if we could change this to like a multiply, or like, no, it's not going to let us. A screen sometimes works, but those are all Photoshop modes. We got like 2 minutes left, so I'm just going to write out some of the descriptions, but you guys will get the idea here. Or we say mix butter, brown sugar, and cinnamon until they make paste in a separate bowl. Mix flour. I spelled flour like a flower. That's funny. And oatmeal, and add flour and oatmeal mixture to the butter mixture. This should mostly stick together. And then the very last part is, but should be a little crumbly, and alternate between layers of yams, crayons, marshmallows, oatmeal. Bake at 350 for 45 min, and right before serving. Cover top with marshmallows and bake at 400 until top layer of marshmallows have melted and browned. Now, I want to have that in a text box so that it fits all into one area. We'll just click and drag. I'm going to copy and paste it. And then maybe we want to do something where we increase this. And then if you go to paragraph rather than you go down to text, type, and we open up paragraph, then you can say that after each like break, it will summarize it. So then that way you have there. Ta-da! And so, like I said, I would like to switch these out. But all things considered, like I think because of our time crunch, I think we did pretty well. I appreciate you guys being here. Thanks for helping us restore some photos. I might continue to mess with this, and I will bring an update next week. But thank you guys all very much. I'm looking forward to see you guys next time. And stay tuned for some more Adobe Live. Take care. Bye.